right, so as you guys know, Brian Kelly got fired yesterday following LSU's home loss to Texas A&M 49-25. By most accounts, the entire LSU fan base has been pretty happy with the decision. I haven't seen too many people complaining or saying it was unwarranted. I've also seen a lot of Notre Dame fans cashing in receipts and hitting them with the I told you so's, followed up by LSU fans letting them know that they were right. You even had a lot of current and former LSU players making posts about being happy that he's gone, which I think is the most telling part about how well he won over the locker room and Baton Rouge community. Kelly has always come off as a pretty unlikable guy. I won't rehash everything, since I'm sure you guys know most of the stories, but the big heavy hitters consisting of him being responsible for telling that Notre Dame football intern to go up into the scissor lift to film during a windy practice, which then blew over and costed that kid his life. Then there was the way he left Notre Dame, bashing the school on the way out, claiming he couldn't win there, and that he was going to a place where he would actually get the resources he needed to be successful. He shows up at LSU, does that stupid fake southern accent at the basketball game, basically implying that people down south are so dumb they'll think that he's one of them if he develops a terrible accent overnight. And then the one that always bothered me the most, excluding the Notre Dame student's death, was I always despised seeing the way he talked to his assistant coaches and players on the sideline. Seeing him completely humiliate them and treat them like complete garbage for making a mistake. I understand this is high-level football and athletics, and there's nothing wrong with talking to other coaches and players sternly when a mistake is made. And most people, myself included, who have played sports have been yelled and screamed at. It's part of playing sports, and good for kids of all ages to get hard coaching and criticism, but he seemed to always do it in a way that was never constructive and always just meant to belittle them as people, especially as assistant coaches. It just always seemed as though he always went out of his way to make sure everyone watching and listening needed to know that whatever mistake was made was not on him. It was on whoever he was yelling at. There's no shortage of other examples, but I won't get into those since you all know most of the stories. While the entire college football world is discussing and mostly rejoicing in Kelly being fired, the first person I really saw defend him publicly and talk about how they didn't like the decision was Jon Gruden. I was watching him as a guest on Wake Up Barstool this morning, and here's what he had to say.
I don't like what I'm seeing, to be honest with you guys, with all these coaches being fired. It's not even November yet. I know there's a lot of expectations on these guys, but college football is very difficult right now with the transfer portal and the NIL and navigating all this stuff and trying to establish a culture and, getting your coaching staff to stay online with you. It's a crazy world of college football right now, but I hope they find some good replacements out there because some of these teams might be sorry they did what they did. Brian Kelly's a good coach. I'm sure he'll land on his feet. And I just hate seeing a lot of coaches getting fired before November, but that's just me.
So obviously Gruden starts out more general, standing up for college coaches and talking about all firings across the landscape of college football before getting into Coach Kelly specifically. Other than Kelly being at the University of Cincinnati before Notre Dame and Gruden having ties back to Ohio, they've never crossed paths or coached together. Later on in the segment, Dave Portnoy asked Coach Gruden about the Bengals and their season. Gruden starts talking about the Bengals firing their DC and Lou Anarumo after last season, and something just ignites in him and you hear him start to boil over and get more animated. During his rant, he revisits the discussion on firing college coaches and starts teeing off on the players, saying they need to start playing better or give back their NIL money, and even rips the trainers because of all the injuries on each team. Take a look.
They just fired Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator. Guess where he is right now calling him up? He's with the 7-1 Colts. So you bring Al Golden. Al Golden's a good coach. But if you don't have players, I don't care what kind of coach you are. And I go back to some of these college coaches. These players are getting paid a lot of money. Some of these players got to play a lot better. And some of these players got to quit getting hurt. Hell, there's about 10 guys on every team that don't even play. And we sit here and bitch about the coach. Let's fire him every day. I say we get some of these trainers run out of the league and get some of these players to give back their money because they got to play better. But the Bengals defense, that was disgusting. That was a terrible effort yesterday. 500 yards versus the Jets. And the Jets don't have a receiver that I can name. I can't name their wide receivers. They haven't given an offensive lineman a second contract since Clint Bowling. I mean, this is a bunch of rental properties on the offensive line, and Burrow's hurt every year, it seems. But I'm from Ohio, and these Bengals kicked me off yesterday.
It's no surprise that Gruden defended the college and NFL coaches, being a former coach himself. Most of us probably expected that to be his opinion. I can appreciate and understand his argument about all these different college coaches being fired before November, and there's certainly arguments that can be made for a lot of the coaches fired up to this point. I just don't think Brian Kelly is one of them. I absolutely think LSU made the right call moving off of him. I suppose I'm pretty biased though, considering I've never been a big fan of Kelly's, and also with making that move, LSU just became the #1 desired coach landing spot in the country and are able to start seeing who they may want and reaching out to other coaches. In a lot of cases, you may see schools do what Indiana did with Coach Cignetti, offering him an extension mid-season after the Oregon win to prevent anyone from poaching him away. I'm sure there's a lot of coaches out there who may think twice about signing an extension if they know LSU is interested in him, and I think LSU will have the first pick at the coaching pool. Most would probably make the argument it's a more desirable landing spot than Florida and Penn State, so I think it was a good move for them to make. As for Kelly, who knows? There have been reports he said behind closed doors he'll be done coaching after LSU, and I could absolutely see him not even taking another coaching job just to make sure LSU has to pay 100% of his buyout. Kelly's from Massachusetts and definitely seems more like a Big Ten Midwestern school coach as opposed to the SEC. I have no idea if they'll be interested, but I could see him taking the Penn State job, especially if it was between them and Florida, but I think Penn State fans would hate that decision and would want Franklin to come back before they hired Brian Kelly, and I wouldn't blame him. Let me know what you thought about Jon Gruden's comments. Do you have any issue with all these college coaches being fired in the middle of the season? And how do you feel about Brian Kelly being let go by LSU? Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.